Hello, and welcome back to ASMR with Rudy. ASMR with Rudy. ASMR with Rudy. My name, of course, is ASMR with Rudy, and welcome back to a brand new video. And you might be wondering, Rudy, why are you looking so wonderfully detailed? What is up with your face glowing like a majestic, splendid set of thousands of suns lined up in front of my eyes? And that's because this is my new phone. This is meant to be my new phone that I use for every other purpose, with my old phone kind of being exclusively for ASMR. But I thought I haven't tried using this for kind of ASMR purposes, so I thought I'd give it a shot, you know. And what better way to give it a shot than by making an ASMR video dedicated to Marvel. So here it is. Here is my video on that, and there will also be a lot of rambling here. There will also be a very heavily opinionated commentary from me, and so warning to those that are sort of easily offended in that regard, with regards to whatever opinions you have in terms of Marvel specifically or movies in general. My my opinions are offered up as my opinions entirely. They're not meant as a factual critic of the film, because there is none. There is no such thing as a factual critic. It's all just subjective. So this is my subjective take on this stuff that I will be covering. And what I am covering in terms of that subjective criticism is Deadpool and Wolverine. So Deadpool 3. That'll come at the very end. But right now, what we're going to be talking about is Marvel Cinematic Universe's Infinity Saga, which spans from Iron Man 1 all the way to Avengers Endgame, with a little bit of commentary on X-Men as well. Even though it's not involved in the Infinity Saga, I'm just including it for fun. But that'll come in the end, way later. My focus is more on a MCU Infinity Saga sort of Rambles video. And also, it'll feature a bonus comment from one of my subscribers, Possessive Opossum, who left a cool comment that I will be reading out. So stick around for that. All right. Until then, sit back, relax, and let me know. Do you like the new phone? Do you like the sounds it gives? Do you like how amazing it makes me look? I don't know. Let's get started. So, let's begin. Captain America, the first Avenger. Dun, dun. No, that's the Avengers team, not Captain America. Anyway, Captain America, the first Avengers. We begin, obviously, with Steve Rogers, skinny kid, really, literally near the brink of life. Bro is dying. Bro is not making it out of like his problems. He's just completely full of like issues, and he's not like your typical soldier. He's skinny, he's small, he's very weak. So naturally, he struggles in getting selected. Yada yada yada. We have a German scientist who's working in America, and he's helping sort of develop a serum, and like they're trying to figure out who's a good candidate. Obviously, in terms of physicality alone, Steve Rogers is like not it. He is absolutely trash in terms of those metrics alone. Not my words. This is the movie directly. And yeah, that's kind of what they view him. But he has courage. He has, um, he carries this sort of, what in his words, he doesn't like bullies, no matter where they come from. He's not a killer. He just doesn't like bullies. And so this is obviously in part to what is going on in World War II, and not something related to you know stuff like yeah, this kind of like our world, but in the sense that the World War II involved in another crazy party under the already crazy parties whose name I cannot take on YouTube, and I'm not willing to also, just because I think you kind of get the drift. It starts with N. I hope you understand. So Hydra, um, led by Red Skull. Red Skull you might recognize from the other Avengers movies that you've seen, like Endgame and Infinity War. So that happens, and then we skip a little bit. We see a lot of we see the first kind of shot of Tesseract, which I feel at the very initial periods of the Infinity Saga was just meant to be some kind of space gizmo and not an Infinity Stone. And I'll explain why that is and why it is that I think this. But let's sort of move on. Captain America displays a lot of heroism, humility, courage. He's brave. He is strong from here and from here. And so those traits help him get selected, and then he becomes from Stickman to Buffman. Um, Haley Atwell kind of gets very like, oh my goodness, for him, understandably, because I would too. And that happens, and he does the war stuff, defeats Red Skull. Actually, Red Skull kind of just dies kind of on his own after he holds the Tesseract, and it's not meant for humans, very obviously, and it just shoots him up into space. We'll get to where he goes in some time. Skip. Okay, again, I'm doing this in a timeline order. This is not meant to be release order, okay? So Captain America, First Avenger, at the very end, he crashes a ship where nuclear bombs are stored, and it would have threatened America in the war. So he crashed the ship and went down with it, got frozen for 70 years, wakes up at the end of the movie, freaks out because it's been 70 years, and he's just like, well, this is life, I guess. And yeah, and then we sort of kind of have him set up to show up in Avengers 2012. Captain Marvel, second movie in timeline order. Captain Marvel is in a way responsible for creating the Avengers initiative, but Captain America is the first Avenger. So Captain Marvel also involves something to do with Tesseract. A Kree pilot, a Kree. If you don't know what a Kree is, it's just a race of people from space. And so a Kree pilot scientist is on Earth working on a secret project that's a light speed drive. She is helping. And she has Carol Danvers and Maria Rambo under her, kind of serving as pilots because they're part of the Air Force, and she's a scientist, and they're sort of just helping her do pilot work. Piloting the craft and testing stuff out. That happens, and there's a lot of there's just a lot of mystery around it. And then one day she's like, we need to do a test flight of this aircraft, and they're doing that, and then somebody attacks them and blows their ship down. They crash land. Captain Marvel, in a desperate attempt to sort of not let this research get stolen, at that moment she's just a human. What happens is she shoots the fusion drive, which was powered by the Tesseract. The Tesseract is not in it, but it was powered by it. And so the fusion drive blows up, and the energy that the Tesseract holds, that same energy now enters Brie Larson, aka Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel. So she kind of just becomes the Infinity Stone in like the easiest way possible. She kind of gets laced with those powers, and so from muscle to muscle, vein to vein, her essence is just reconstructed with the powers of the Space Stone, the blue box from Avengers, and then from like Captain America, obviously. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm condensing the plot a lot. There is a lot of things to do with what happens after she absorbs that energy. She just sort of passes out, obviously, as she would, and then kind of loses her memory as well. Or I think, no, she loses her memory because the people that shot that spacecraft down are Kree, and Kree are actually bad. They are sort of perpetuating a norm that there's this kind of group of aliens that need to be hunted down, and there are these other aliens called Skrulls, who the Kree have been battling for thousands of years. And what ends up happening is that space pilot, scientist lady, uh, whose name is Marvel, ends up realizing this, and so doesn't want to give that space light speed drive fusion core thingy to Kree, but she wants to use it to give it to Skrull instead, so they can go away from the Kree, because the Kree keeps wanting to subjugate other people, and she's not anymore a believer in that cause. Um, and what also is a huge plot point of this movie is that an AI is sort of the head of this complex species entirely, a super AI, and kind of tells them what to do, and they kind of just listen, and they take her word for it. And yeah, that's kind of what happens to Captain Marvel as well. She sort of gets brainwashed into believing the lies of the Kree and the AI, and that's pretty much the entire plot. She kind of rediscovers who she is, meets up with Maria Rambo, who's her friend from back on Earth. Um, but Captain Marvel has also become a Kree because she lost a lot of blood during that thing, or I think they just purposely put Kree blood in her to make her a Kree and kind of just make her think she's a Kree. Yada yada yada. That happens. They're trying to control her, subjugate her. She breaks free. She becomes powerful. She becomes empowered by her powers, and she realizes her full potential. And everyone just kind of backs off because obviously she's like a god in terms of her power. And yeah, now we cut to. Oh yeah. Anyway, um, before I cut to the next thing, which is sort of release order, Infinity Saga. It ends with Fury, Agent Fury, Nick Fury, realizing that the Earth is unmatched, and so they need people like Captain Marvel, and he kind of drafts a Avengers Initiative program designed to kind of find individuals who are like her, who can serve and protect the Earth. Iron Man, clearly, clearly where it all began. Everyone knows Iron Man. It's RDJ, who is coming back to reprise his Marvel days, not in his role as Iron Man, but reprise a new role, play a new role. So I don't think he's reprising. He's coming in as a new role for Doctor Doom. Now, Doctor Doom is also metallic suited man, but not in a Iron Man sense. Where Iron Man might be like ASMR, Doctor Doom's like ASMR. He is scary. Well, we're not going to talk about that now. Iron Man obviously starts off with Tony Stark being a douchebag millionaire, which he always has been in the comics. He gets taken captive by a bunch of terrorists in some place. Um, I'm not sure where, but he is doing a weapons demonstration because he sells weapons, and he's doing that to the government. He's demonstrating his weapons to the government, like look at him blow up and stuff, and a bunch of bad people blow stuff up and take him, and his heart is also blown up. And what that means is shrapnel has entered his chest. So what happens to when a grenade blows up? That happens to him because he's got in that field of explosion. So that's how a weapon like grenade works, where it's kind of a bunch of things blowing up into separate pieces, and those separate pieces entered his chest cavity and are threatening to enter his heart. And so a scientist slash surgeon guy, um, I forget his name, but it starts with a Y, I think. He devises a kind of arc reactor-y looking circly thing, which is just an electromagnet, sticks it in his chest, and it kind of keeps those metallic shrapnel away from his heart, which is good because he would die otherwise. Now that happens, we skip to him building the Iron Man costume, starting with Mark 1, which is just sort of a bulky, huge silver thing. Like an iron thing, steel, whatever, is this kind of meant to break out of the cave of the bad guys and, figure out what to do next. And yeah, that's kind of what it is. His friend dies in the process, the scientist guy. Yinsen dies. Really sad. Anyway, sorry, I wasn't trying to be meme like, but that happens. And then he flies out, he realizes the success of his suit, and then he thinks about how to develop an even more refined suit. And oh, by the way, the suit is powered by his first generation arc reactor, which is just basically a miniaturized version of what he already has back at home. And he figures out the science, he does some sciencey nonsense magic shit. Sorry, I'm really sorry for my language today. You're seeing Rudy in his non-filming element. It's very rambly. It's meant to be very, very wow, 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 wow. So you're gonna see a lot of my real personality play out. It's not gonna be polite and welcome back to my channel. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm being a little awkward and funny and strange. Am I funny? Let me know in the comments. I doubt I am. I'm joking. I'm extremely funny. Anyway, so all this has happened because somebody has been orchestrating stuff against him, who is, if I'm not wrong, Obadiah Stane, played by the guy who played Thrawn and who played Flynn in both. No, the guy who played, not Thrawn, sorry, the guy who played Flynn and Clue in the first Tron movie, and the same in the next Tron movie. Jeff Bridges, yeah. So a bald Jeff Bridges is really, really sad and angry and annoyed by Tony Stark, and he wants his success and he wants to take over the industry and Stark Industries. Tries to kill RDJ, fails, dies. Simply put, Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps. That's all I'll say. I'm trying to keep this very, very sort of quick because I don't want to give any spoilers for the movies. But also I am giving spoilers, but I don't want to like fully give away the plot in case somebody wants to watch them. Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2. I don't like Iron Man 2 or Iron Man 3, but they're good movies. But also, I'm not a huge fan. That's just me though. I do like Iron Man 2 a little better because there's some stuff in it, I guess. But Iron Man 3 was just strange. I'll be honest. That's just me though. Moving on, Iron Man 2, we come across Howard Stark's scientist buddy, Russian scientist buddy, who sort of went bad, and so Howard Stark got him deported. Was basically happening is this Russian science guy and Howard Stark, Tony's dad, were actually the people behind the arc reactor concept. Not the small one, the big one. And their science, in fact, actually, the Russian guy was very instrumental in it. Their science and their stuff helped to kind of make the breakthrough happen. And now, where one person found success, the other person found jail time. And the bad guy's son also ended up in jail. And it's kind of a stark contrast. What a pun. Stark contrast. So, Tony Stark is just rich, whereas the sins of the father of one dad ended up putting one in jail and the other just got rich. So it's just sort of a stark contrast, and there's kind of a black chess knight, white chess knight situation. And this guy figures out how to build his own arc reactor, the bad guy in the movie, and he has a thing for like birds. I didn't really understand that plot point. And then there's some Jason Hammer or something like that, who's a competitor to Stark in the weapons industry. Not really a competitor. He's just a phony who's trying to be Tony Stark, but it's not really working. Anyway, that happens. It's a lot of that whole nonsense for a whole lot of hours, and a lot of cool suit ups though by Iron Man. And this is also the movie where Pepper Potts and Iron Man sort of officially tie the knot, if I'm not wrong. And we get another Iron Man in the role of the Iron Patriot, played by Tony Stark's best friend slash military Air Force commander, captain guy, weapons guy thingy, Rudy. Yeah, Rudy. RHODEY. ASMR with Rudy. Anyway, that's pretty much Iron Man 2. Or that's pretty much all I'm willing to explore for Iron Man 2. Thor. I just watched Thor last night. I'm rewatching a lot of the Iron Man stuff and Thor stuff. Basically everything MCU timeline related. Infinity Saga wise. And everything really. So Thor. First movie meant to introduce Thor, the god of thunder, his dad Odin, his brother Loki. Frigga didn't really have much to do in this movie, so I'm not going to talk about her. But she's basically their mom. Heimdall, Jane Foster, Eric Selvig, all these guys. So yeah, Thor starts with Thor. He's arrogant, he's brash, he's kind of just hell-bent on just fighting all the time instead of really thinking with his mind. His brother's jealous of him. Thor does some stupid stuff. His dad casts him out of the realm, takes away his powers, and that is where it's the whole concept of whosoever be worthy shall possess the power of Thor. You know, and if you're not worthy, you don't have the ability to pick up the weapon and gain those powers. And that's basically done to teach Thor a lesson. But all of this has also happened as a result of Loki's schemes to kind of get rid of Thor in a way, because he's jealous of him and he hates him, and he's always been in Thor's shadow. And also he just doesn't think Thor would make a good king. So his plans work. It gets revealed that Loki's actually not even a child of Odin, but a child of frost giants who are the enemies of Asgard. Loki hates his dad for this, shouts at him, yells at him. His dad gets sad, so he sleeps. I'm joking. He gets really sad, goes into the Odin sleep, which is like a very deep slumber thing, which might even mean death at times, I believe. So that happens. It gets revealed that Loki has a lot of underlying plans ready to kind of do bad things to Asgard, and Heimdall figures that out, and so that whole plot points there. And then while that's happening, Thor is on Earth, being weird because he's a god from space and doesn't know how to behave on a planet like Earth. He meets Jane Foster, Eric Selvig, Darcy Silverman. Sort of doesn't really lie about who he is, but they're just kind of like, is he high? And Shield is investigating the Hammer at the moment. Strategic Homeland Intelligence something department. That's Shield. The guys with the big helicopters, helipads, something that flies. The ship thingies that are in the waters usually. My God, whenever I'm recording, I just kind of like English out the door. You should see me in my element. Otherwise, I'm pretty much laser focused in how I speak. But whatever. Let's continue. So that happens. Thor becomes worthy because he sort of does something very self-sacrificey, very selfless. Gets his powers back. Loki dies. The space bridge called Bifrost gets blown up. Destroyed by Thor. And Odin wakes up. Yeah, again, I'm really running through this movie in an extremely rambly, nonsensical way. So don't take my word for it as a description of the actual plot. I'm just kind of walking through all of it as if I'm kind of just going for a stroll in the park, and I'm pointing things out. So yeah, this is also where we get a end credit scene, which is setting up Avengers 2012, where we see Nick Fury contacting Eric Selvig with regard to things related to the Tesseract, and we get a glimpse of Eric Selvig's reflection, which is Loki. And so it's like kind of telling us that Loki is manipulating Eric Selvig, and this is where certain things make a little sense for Avengers 2012's beginning. And what that is basically, now we come to Avengers, the first one, 2012. And what happens there is the Tesseract starts behaving weirdly, and it opens a bridge, a space bridge on its own, or so it seems. But when you watch Thor and its entrance scene, it makes sense that Loki kind of hacked into it as a result of Eric Selvig. So yeah, because if it really is supposed to be an Infinity Stone, why would it work remotely from somewhere else? Anyway, so that's just a plot point that I noticed on along with my sibling when we were watching, and it sort of made sense after we realized that. So that happens. A space portal opens, and this is something what I noticed as well when I was watching Avengers. I don't think the Tesseract was meant to be an Infinity Stone, at least at the very start. I think as things went on, they were like a little more confident to turn things down the Infinity Stone plotline, but I think the Avengers was just meant to be slightly testy in terms of like, let's make a movie, let's see how people react. Because when you watch the movie, one, the Loki scepter is supposedly consisting the Mind Stone, which gets revealed by Ultron, Avengers Ultron. Now, Thanos put that scepter in Loki's hand. Why would Thanos willingly give away one Infinity Stone when he's kind of looking for all of them, right? And that's something my sibling noticed, and I was just like blown away by that. I was like, yeah, why? And I'll tell you why. It's because they were never Infinity Stones. The Tesseract was just a Tesseract, a space cube. It was never the Space Stone. It was just a cube. It was like a powerful, constructy, abstract, physical, manifested weapon. Just a weapon. It was not even meant to be anything else. It was just a space cube with powers, and not necessarily something like, yeah, an Infinity Stone. And I think that makes sense given the fact that the scepter, Loki's scepter, behaves as such, you know. But anyway, that's just a little ramble on my part. So the Avengers, Loki's revenge follows home to planet Earth. His hate for his brother brings him to trying to subjugate planet Earth. Also because he's just lazy and he couldn't really lay waste to another group of space people, space inhabitants of planets. So the humans seem like an easy target for Loki. Also because they are the people that Thor cares about. And I think Earth's name is Midgard in a technical Norse mythological sense. So Loki wants to attack Midgard. Thanos' army is with him, so that Loki can lay siege on it, on Earth. The Avengers team up. They try to stop him. They stop Loki in the end. Stuff happens, and then Loki and Thor leave at the end. Like, so Loki can answer for his crimes back home. And yeah, this is 1 year after Thor, and also 1 year after Captain America. Yeah, Thor and Captain America came out at the same time, kind of like a setup movie for the Avengers. So yeah, that happens. And if you're wondering where the other Avengers show up, so Iron Man shows up in 2008's Iron Man. That's his first appearance. Black Widow comes in Iron Man 2. Clint Barton in Thor 1. Hawkeye. Thor in Thor. Captain America and Captain America. Hulk shows up for the first time in Avengers because this is a different actor, Mark Ruffalo, and that was his first appearance as the Hulk in Avengers. He wasn't there before that. He was mentioned, I believe, but it was played by different actors. Edward Norton and another guy, and those movies aren't bad. They're just from way before, you know. But I think it had Thunderbolt Ross in it, the guy who's set to play Red Hulk, you know. And yeah, so the Avengers happens, and that's pretty much it. Like, what happens is, yeah, that's pretty much what happens. The aliens lay siege to New York, but eventually Loki is stopped. Yeah, and I think you should go watch it on your own because again, I'm not spoiling too much. Now we skip to Iron Man 3. Oh god, am I not a fan of this movie at all. So, some guy, I don't know, man, some guy called the Mandarin, who's sort of a fake terrorist organization, is trying to stir things up and, you know, lay disorder to the world, but it's actually an act, a sort of front for another evil genius who is, I forget, Extremis, for the Extremis program, which is completely different in the comics, but it's sort of a thing in the movie as well. So the Extremis kind of makes individuals into these fiery hot people. I don't know, you cut off their limb, it'll just grow back. So kind of like lizards, fiery lizards. I don't know, I'll be honest, I don't remember Iron Man 3 very well, but it had a lot of iconic things like a lot of Iron Man costumes showing up. But all you need to know is that eventually at the end of Iron Man 3, he beats the bad guy, saves his wife, has a lot of cool Iron Man-y montage fight scenes, and also his chest gets fixed. And this thing, the hole that was there with the electromagnet, is fixed, he's healed, and all the shrapnel is removed. So he's kind of like no longer dependent on this machine. And yeah, that's kind of all we need to know from this, you know. He gives up the Iron Man life, if that makes sense. Decides to spend more time with Pepper because he'll otherwise keep being in trouble, right? Like having to fight bad guys. Thor: The Dark World. I'm currently watching that today. A classic Thor movie that everyone is very split on. They either hate it or like it, and I understand that. I used to hate it. I don't know why actually, but when I look back on it, it's not a bad movie at all. It's really good. Now this is actually where I think things kind of go down the Infinity Stone route, and this is where we get introduced to dark elves who just want to plunge the world into darkness, and something called the Ether, which is the Reality Stone. Um, and what ends up happening is the Ether, in Thor's words, Jane Foster stuck her hands into the ether, so it stuck itself into her. Strangest way to word what happened, but that's kind of the entire plot of the movie. She gets symbiotically fused with the ether, and the Asgardians are trying to get it out of her before it kills her because she's immortal. And on top of that, the Dark Elves are also coming after her so that they can take it out of her by killing her, because it'll help them sort of reshape reality, right? Literally, that's the entire point. And yeah, that's kind of the entire premise of the movie. And Loki comes back in this as well. He's of help at times, but again, he's Loki, so he's really just betraying his brother again and screwing with him. And yeah, that's pretty much the movie. Yeah, that's the entire premise of the movie. Again, I'm really just boiling the plot down in a really terrible manner, but I'm not trying to do that to as a disservice to the movies. It's just kind of a rambles video. It's meant to be super casual. It's not meant to be that serious, so treat it as such, please. Anyway, one of my favorite movies, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Splendid watch, superb action. We get Bucky back. So I forgot to mention Bucky dies in Captain America 1. Dies. So he comes back in this as the Winter Soldier, who's a Hydra weapon. He who is the Hydra weapon, in fact. He's been helping reshape the world in Hydra's image, and Hydra has been doing it silently, as opposed to doing it very openly as they did in the World War. They're doing it more silently by infiltrating the organizations that control the world. That gets revealed in Captain America that Hydra is actually Shield. Shield is Hydra. So Captain America is trying to stop that. He does so, but kind of has a huge sort of conflict with Bucky, because when he looks at Bucky, he sees a friend, but when Bucky looks at him, Bucky sees an enemy. Bucky sees a threat. Bucky sees his target, because Bucky's brain has been sort of mangled up and brainwashed, right, by Hydra. Anyway, Captain America succeeds. Hydra is down. Hydra's secrets are out. The whole world knows about it. Shield is also gone, because obviously, if both are one and the same, you need to expose both so that neither have power anymore. So Hydra is stopped. Bucky just disappears somewhere else. And he tries to go learn about his life and figure out who he is, because we know that because he kind of stops at a museum to look at his picture and see what the hell's going on, and then he's kind of just like, what the hell, he's confused, obviously, as he would be. Anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy, a really good movie. I feel like it was a needed movie with in terms of all the seriousness that was going on. This brought a little bit of lightheartedness and a sort of interesting perspective on spaciness that Marvel had, the space stuff that Marvel had been doing. In fact, this is space done more comedically, whereas Thor was more serious, right? So Guardians of the Galaxy, it just sees five, sorry. Drax the Destroyer, Gamora, daughter of Thanos, Peter Quill, a dude from space, a dude from Earth who actually doesn't know it, who knows it but isn't really in connection with any earthly behaviors. He's more just sort of a space guy. Groot and Rocket Raccoon. So a talking tree, a trash panda, green girl, tattooed boy, and earth guy use the power of music and love to destroy some Kree guy. exactly. That there we go. That was the entire premise of Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh, and also, it is pretty cool that how they achieve that in the end. Like the Kree guy is trying to use an Infinity Stone to wipe out an entire civilization, um, but how he is stopped is Peter Quill grabbing the Infinity Stone. Now that shouldn't be possible because humans can't grab it. So how was that possible? We'll get our answers in the second Guardians of the Galaxy. Skip ahead. Avengers: Age of Ultron. Again, an interesting movie in terms of like it's heavily divided up in terms of opinions. People like it, people love it, people hate it. But I love it. In fact, it is probably my second favorite Avengers, right after Infinity War, and then Avengers 1, and then Endgame. I'm not a fan of Endgame. Like, it was a good watch, but it doesn't have a lot of rewatchability for me. Avengers at Age of Ultron I thought was really good. Like, of course, like, Ultron pretty much got wiped out very quickly in the movie, doesn't it? He lasted for one movie, whereas he should have been a villain for a longer time. But he was never meant to be the big guy. It was always Thanos for the MCU, even though arguably in the comics, Ultron is sort of very menacing and crazy and very very up there with Thanos in terms of a threat to the Avengers and the Earth. So Avengers: Age of Ultron, we see um, the Avengers take down the last Hydra base, one of the last Hydra bases, where they also discover Loki's scepter. Um, and we also meet these two people, a fast guy, Quicksilver, and a crazy witch lady, Wanda. And basically they're kind of they're thinking of stopping Iron Man before he grabs the scepter and takes it away, putting essentially stops to the entire plans that are going on at this Hydra base. But instead, she lets him take it and gives him a vision of some stuff, and kind of influences and does something to his mind to make him think other stuff. Now, that works in some way, and he takes it and does what doesn't do what she wanted, but it sort of transpires into a butterfly effect of things where something catastrophic happens as a result of him grabbing the scepter and taking it. Because what he does with it is develop an AI out of it, and that is because the stone itself that is inside the scepter. And now this is where the stuff has changed. So the scepter is no longer just a weapon powered by the Tesseract. It is in fact a separate weapon with an Infinity Stone, the Mind Stone, in fact, the thing that Vision ends up having. So that happens. They realize that there's some entity within there's some entity within the stone embedded within the weapon, and so using his intelligence alongside Bruce Banner, Hulk's intelligence, they find a way to extrapolate that organic slash synthetic existence and translate it into a code like Jarvis. What you get is Ultron. Ultron is this massive AI that is at first confused by its existence and is utterly lost and very hostile as well, all at the same time. And within like less than 2-3 seconds of coming alive, he scours the internet, reads everything about humanity, about everyone, the Avengers, and immediately deems the Earth a threat, rather the humanity a threat to Earth, and instantly just wants to wipe them out. So he shuts down Jarvis, hacks into the Iron Man bots that Iron Man has come up with to help around the world, and yeah, Ultron is hell-bent on destroying the Earth, I mean the humanity, because he wants to rebuild it in his image, because he thinks humanity is just stupid, because we wage war, we suck, and we are dumb, and we are Iron Man and the rest that of people that make mistakes and screw up and ruin other people's lives. In his perspective, he thinks that humanity is a unnecessary part of Earth's existence. Heavy take, but not necessarily a bad take, because you know it was done pretty well in the movie. It's not like a lazy, like, sorry, I had to pause. So I was saying it was not necessarily like a lazy, like every other AI thinks the same kind of writing, like, oh, AI must want to kill humanity. Not necessarily just directly like that. Like, yes, it was that, but it was, I really think it was done really well, especially because the voice actor just did that good of a job, you know. So yeah, great movie. We get introduced to Quicksilver and Wanda. They become good at the end. They start off being bad and against the Avengers, but then they sort of realize that Ultron's really just using them anyway, so they change sides and everything works out. But what happens is, oh, also Hulk and uh, uh, Black Widow are dating, I guess, and she sort of is the only one who can calm him down in his Hulk state and bring him back to normal. So something like that happens. They are a thing now, but at the very end of the movie, Hulk is in some sort of a kind of, I don't know, a different mindset, and he just sort of flies away. I'm not sure why, but something happens, and Hulk no longer wants to be on Earth. For some reason, he just, you know, gets on a Quinjet and flies off into space. Eventually, that's what's revealed. Like, he flies off, but it's revealed that he ends up flying into space. Um, so yeah, that's it. Oh, and Quicksilver dies. Yep, pretty bad, pretty sad. That happens. Ant-Man, another comedic. What am I saying? Comedic at a holiday American accent. Okay, I don't know what that was. I think I need a dialect coach, just like Gambit did in Deadpool and Wolverine. See, this is what happens when I ramble a lot, guys. I just start saying random things and speaking nonsense half the time, and my words just sort of 20 accents take over. I don't know. But anyway, Ant-Man, a very funny movie. Paul Rudd, clearly a gift to this world. Funny guy, very well played this role. Um, Ant-Man obviously is just Ant-Man, literally this small. Like, he can change from a 5 foot 10, 12 guy, 5 foot 6, 5 foot 10, 6 foot kind of guy into a small little insect-sized person. Uh, and that's all the movie is about, and mainly and a lot about the science that Hank Pym did, and the technology of Ant-Man's costume, and Ant-Man redeeming himself, so his daughter does, so he can kind of be there for his daughter. And he's divorced, right? So his daughter is not in his custody. He also went to jail because he's a thief. He's an honorable thief, though. He's not like a killer type thief, but he likes robbing because that's what he's good at. So the whole movie is just kind of centered around that, and it's more of a cute kind of plot with him trying to be there for his daughter. He saves the day, defeats the Yellow Jacket, who's played by Hank Pym's protege, um, another bald guy. I don't know why it's always the bald guys, you know, but yeah, there's a bald guy who's a bad guy in this movie as well. Stuff happens. The protege's girlfriend, who is Hank Pym's daughter, also ends up now being with Ant-Man instead. But that's not like a plot or something. That it just ends up happening. Like, they develop the hots for each other, and they become a thing. And there's also some kind of distance between Hank and his daughter, and that's because it was revealed that Hank Pym's wife died at some point, and the daughter is kind of blaming him for it, I think. And that's because she doesn't know the full truth, and he hasn't taken the time to divulge it either. Which is the fact that she sacrificed herself. She didn't die because of him. She sacrificed herself, And yeah, it's a whole bunch of that. And also, she kind of blames him, and is just angry with him because he doesn't let her wear the suit. You know, um, also, it's not necessarily just the fact that she's dating the bad guy. She's kind of dating him to infiltrate and know more about what he's doing. That's kind of also what is going on. It's not fully that she's dating him or is entirely invested in him, but I just wanted to clear that up in case that I made it sound like as if she's like his kind of girlfriend or whatever. She is, but I don't think in that capacity. They were trying to just kind of shut him down because he was trying to develop the Ant-Man project, and obviously Hank does not want that to happen because he developed it, and in the wrong hands that could be a catastrophe. Because it's powered by pimp particles. It's named after him, Hank Pym. So pimp particles that help make a big person small or a big thing small by sort of changing the distance between atoms. It's some nonsense MCU science stuff. None of it makes sense, but it makes sense. So that happens. It's a whole lot of that. It's pretty cool. I like the movie a lot. It's a lot of ants. So if you like ants and a singular Ant-Man, you will like this movie. It's really good. I would give it a watch. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. A lot of music again. A lot of instead of six people, it's five people and a tree and some planet guy doing stuff, and a seventh insect lady, mantis. So not the mantis from Kung Fu Panda, but another mantis who can put people to sleep. Again, I'm really changing these movies up and making them sound more nonsensical than they are. But that's pretty much it. It's a good movie. I would actually hate to spoil this movie for you guys, so I'm not going to get into it. But it is a lot of like, all I'm going to say is I'm going to say it in terms of like categorical kind of descriptors. Daddy issues, planet-sized Pac-Man, a lot of music, weird love shipping, and 5 baby Groot. That's all I'll say. Mr. Blue Sky also. So that's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Captain America 3 Civil War. Now this is not like the Civil War from the comics. It's not really that big of an event. It's much smaller, but it is a civil war within the Avengers, which happens as a result of Captain America wanting to save Bucky, whereas Iron Man is like, no, let's not do that. Let's give him away. And it's also coming from the fact that the world deems the Avengers a threat because whenever they're involved in sort of any actions, it causes a lot more devastation. From their perspective, like, it's obvious there was going to be devastation, but they blame the devastation that comes after the battle on them, which is not really wrong, but it's kind of stupid because without them, the entire planet would have been wiped out. But whatever. So the Sokovia Accords is something that happened as a result of the events in Age of Ultron, and the world is like, nope, we don't want the Avengers. These guys are causing too many threats, too much problems for us all. Let's shut them down and make them a government entity so that the government decides what to do with them. Iron Man is on board with this. I think Black Widow is on board with this. Rudy is on board with this as well. And yeah, like a few people are against it, which is basically Captain America and his team, and people on Iron Man's team are like for it. And also the Bucky situation, like Captain America being like saving of Bucky, whereas Iron Man's like, nope, let's hand him over. So that happens, and they fight it out, and Captain America eventually escapes with Bucky to wherever that they're headed, and where they're headed is to a cold base that's in somewhere located somewhere remote, where other people like Bucky are around. And the whole reason this whole thing is actually happening is because, with regards to Bucky, is because he's been labeled a sort of murderer for the killing Black Panther's dad, which is not true because it's actually someone else called Zemo who is angry at the Avengers and wants to break them up, like how, let's say, Fifth Harmony broke up. So they want to do that. Zemo wants to break them up, and like a toxic X or something like that, and have like a musical number and stuff. That works out because it causes a rift in it, in their group, in the Avengers, with Captain America believing Bucky and Iron Man being like, why are you supporting a murderer? Eventually Captain America believes that Bucky is innocent because he realizes that it's not Bucky it was in fact Bucky getting framed for it. So yeah, that happens, and the Zemo guy is also trying to. It's believed that he's trying to reawaken the super soldiers that were developed in the Cold War or something. But turns out he actually wasn't trying to do that. In fact, he killed all of them. They were like placed in like incubation, some kind of. They were frozen basically, and what ended up happening was. Sorry for pausing. So yeah, it's just a whole lot of like misunderstandings and a lot of like perpetuation on Zemo's part. Essentially, the whole point isn't only to just frame Bucky or cause a rift. It is to break them apart fully in a way where there's no coming back from it. And so, what the actual plot is to sort of lure Iron Man, Captain America, and Bucky to this base of super soldiers area to reveal a really messed up secret to Iron Man. And what that secret is something I don't want to say, because if you haven't watched the movies, it is not something that you should know, because it would be a massive spoiler. So I'm going to say a spoiler warning right now, because I do want to talk about it, but I'm going to give a huge spoiler warning. I'm going to count to 5, and you can skip ahead. Okay, so skip ahead and go and see the rest of the video, or just click away from the video. Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bucky was responsible for killing Tony Stark's parents. Obviously that doesn't work out well for any of us, does it? He's mad, very mad. And Tony Stark's even more upset because Captain America knew this information and didn't share, because he knew it would hurt Tony. But the reason he didn't share it is obviously because Tony wouldn't understand, or he may have, but Captain America was kind of just being a little bit of a coward about it. Bucky is innocent in the sense that he didn't really have any say in his actions because he was being controlled. He was brainwashed, and he was just doing the biddings on someone else's part. He wasn't actually responsible, but the blood is on his hands in a literal sense. So the entire rest of the movie is just Iron Man trying to kill Bucky trying to literally survive, and Captain America beating Iron Man's ass for literally being upset about his parents dying. Which honestly, that's kind of one of the reasons I don't like the movie, because it's just sort of like really wrong in some ways. Like, you are upset with a person for being upset about his parents dying. Like, it's an icky plot, but in a good way. It's not necessarily bad. It's just something that's kind of odd to watch, Oh, and also Tom Holland makes his first appearance. Black Panther, great movie. The only movie I think that deserved the only movie that got, not deserved, the only movie that got it deserved in the nominee team, the Academy's eyes, I mean. But yeah, the only MCU movie that got a Best Picture nomination, which makes sense because this movie is great. So this apparently takes place a week after Captain America Civil War, and T'Challa realizes that Bucky is innocent and Zemo is actually the bad guy. He rises to becoming king, and then he has to save his kingdom again because his cousin is threatening to take over and expose the kingdom and its secrets, but that actually is a valid thing to do because black people all over the world are being subjugated. But there's literally a community of black people that are literally 10-20 times stronger than the people that are subjugating black people, but they aren't helping their brothers because they just think Wakanda should be safeguarded and protected. And so the cousin Killmonger is like, are you guys stupid? Like, our communities are literally being subjugated by like the rest of the world, and you are sitting here with so much power and you don't want to do anything about it. So that's their philosophy. They sit and they do well in their little community and just don't do anything else. They don't really step into the real world and fight for the real world or do anything for their people. Their people are only the people that are in this bubble. So it's just sort of like a movie about a lot of that stuff, a lot of interesting things, the dynamics between Black Panther and Killmonger, and a lot of stuff about what it means to be a good king. And I really like the movie because it's a very mature plot, and it's very well developed. And the concept of Wakanda is very interesting, because when you have such a rich and diverse community of technology, of culture, but all you're doing is sitting with it and not using it to help the world and help others like you, it's a really good plot. Because Killmonger, while he's bad, his entire point is to use the weapons of Wakanda to empower other people, like like himself, like other black people, right? Like across all communities. Not so Wakanda is somewhere in Africa. It's a fictional world, but it's somewhere within Africa. I think a little down south, central south. Like if this is Africa. Uh, it would be somewhere here, if I'm not wrong. Like if Egypt is somewhere up here, I think Wakanda was somewhere like here. I could be wrong. I don't really remember exactly where it is. But the whole point is, he's like, we have like black people dying literally all over the world, and they are they're victims of racism and so many other things. Why aren't you getting up and defending them when we are all like brothers alike? We're brothers and sisters alike. Like, he is a bad guy, yes. Like, he's not innocent in any way. He goes around killing and he is a mercenary, but he did all of that because he had to, because he got literally left alone by his community and his people. Firstly, he didn't even know he was a Wakandan fully until like he realized it much later. Like, he knew but wasn't a part of it, because his dad, T'Challa's dad's brother, was doing sort of things outside the outside of Wakanda, which is selling the weapons to other. I think he was selling it to either other people or other black people. Now I don't know which it is, but it was something that Wakandans were disagreeing with, and he paid with his life for it. Because yeah, and so basically they abandoned the poor kid. Poor, I'm saying, like, it's sad for him. He gets abandoned. He blames the Wakandans for and hates their stupidity, their cowardice, and basically wants to just put an end to it. He kind of comes close to it, but Black Panther survives, but does go ahead and reveal the truth about the world, and starts involving Wakanda in being more active with helping the world. Doctor Strange. So Doctor Strange, basically a sort of movie to introduce Doctor Strange, give some backstory to his character, how he rises to power. He's kind of exactly like Tony Stark, very arrogant, very overconfident, very smart, but obviously a jerk. He's not able to commit to his girlfriend because there's stuff about that. And then he's just sort of a very science bound guy. He doesn't believe in any belief like things, spiritual things, none of that. Until one day, he's forced into sort of a position where that happens, where surgery and science cannot fix his sort of injured hands, and he needs his hand because he's a surgeon, and his entire life savings have gone in trying to like fix his hands. And now he turns to spirituality and all of that to learn to do it, because he comes across someone who's fixed themselves using those things. So he goes to Kamartaj, learns some science stuff, and he turns out he's very gifted in this stuff, becomes the new sorcerer supreme or whatever. And yeah, that's the basic premise of the movie. It's just an origin story thing, so I'm not going to get into it too much. Spider-Man Homecoming, also an origin story. I'm not going to get into it too much. It has the Vulture, it has Peter figuring out stuff, and it has Iron Man helping Peter figure it out, kind of, in a way, from a far mentor-mentee sort of relationship thing. And in this world, Peter's Spider-Man-y looking costume comes from RDJ, like Tony Stark. He builds it for him, and that's what. Otherwise, his suit kind of looks a little more like something a kid would make, which is good because every other Spider-Man movie, it looks like they're great tailors who can build stuff very well and stitch. And here is just a hoodie and a top and like a pant and goggles for his original suit, which is good. So I like the movie. It's pretty nice. And the whole movie is basically about Spider-Man figuring out who he is, figuring out his powers, understanding it, and all of that. Ant-Man and the Wasp. Um, it's about Ant-Man and the Wasp. The Wasp is played by Ant-Man's girlfriend, Hope. Sorry, I'm not trying to reduce her down to his girlfriend. I just said that normally because I forgot and then I noticed the name. So Hope plays the Wasp. Ant-Man is Ant-Man, Paul Rudd. So Scott Lang, Paul Rudd, Hope, Evangeline Lilly. So these guys with Hank Pym are just sort of figuring some stuff out in the quantum realm, which is like a place where that's actually where by going too small you end up disappearing into that place because you keep shrinking eternally. So that's what happened to that is what's revealed that's what happened. Oh my god, it's revealed that is what ended up happening to Hank Pym's wife. So she's not dead, she just sort of disappeared. And they're sort of like the whole movie centered around trying to get her back because for some reason when Scott went into it himself in the first movie, she gets kind of quantum entangled with him, so that she's able to kind of communicate through him in a way, and so they're figuring out a way to bring her back, and they succeed, bring her back, and that's the entire premise of that movie, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, and there's another character, but I'm just kind of condensing it pretty quickly because the video is pretty long already. Wow, I've been talking way too long. Thor Ragnarok, the third installment in the Thor movie. That's all I'll say. Double thumbs up. Double this. Superb. Really good. So it starts with him putting Surtur down, who is the person responsible for starting Ragnarok, which is an event, which is kind of an inevitable event in the mythos of the Norse mythos. It's just sort of like the end of the world, which will keep happening. It's just a cycle. It'll come back, Asgard comes back, Ragnarok, Asgard comes back, Ragnarok. It's just meant to happen. But Thor is sort of trying to put an end to it because he thinks it's not supposed to happen. And then suddenly it's revealed that Odin has been imprisoned on Earth by Loki, but it's actually less that and Odin himself wanting to be there because he's at the end of his life, he's old and whatever. Oh, also in Thor 2 their mom dies, so I guess Odin really doesn't have much to live for. So he stays on Earth, and Doctor Strange is sort of just in communications with him, and he's like, "Sir, do you need anything?" And he's like, "Nope, leave me alone." So Odin's alone on Earth, just chilling. Thor's gone back to get him because in the interim where Thor was missing from Asgard for some time, Loki took over again, and he was pretending to be Odin, and then it got revealed he was not Odin when Thor showed up again. And yeah, so it's just they both go back to Earth to get their dad, but their dad's like, "Yep, I'm dying. I'm at the end of my life. Peace." And he just kind of decides to go to Valhalla. Hela comes now out of nowhere. So Hela is the actual true firstborn of Odin, and she is a really, really ruthless and powerful person. She was being held in an alternate sort of prison area, dimension-y thingy, because of Odin. And now that Odin's gone, she's free to return. Thor attacks her with his hammer. She literally takes it and breaks it. She's that powerful. So basically, she goes and tries to take over Asgard and succeeds in like 5 seconds because no one's a match for her. A lot of people die. She takes over. Thor is trying to claim Asgard back from her, but the entire time he's like, "I don't have my hammer, I don't know what to do." And it's then later revealed that his power is not the hammer, it's everything else. He's more than that, he's even more powerful. So he ends up unlocking that. Hulk is involved in this movie because where they end up getting banished, which is at some point in the movie when they're trying to return to Asgard. So after she breaks the hammer, they take the Bifrost up, but she comes along, and that's why she ends up in Asgard, and she can lay siege on it. But while they're returning through the Bifrost thingy, Thor and Loki get kicked out, and they get sent to some corner of the universe, to a place called the Devil's Butthole. And that's actually where Hulk is, and that's how they meet up, and then they come back to Asgard and trying to fight and whatever. and then he realizes that Ragnarok must happen, so he begins Ragnarok. um, Surtur destroys Asgard, and that's how Hela gets defeated. Because literally only the killing of an entire world and like exploding it can literally destroy her. Plus, yeah, I guess that's just like convenience, right? So that happens at the end of the movie. Thanos attacks the ship because he's on a conquest, obviously, to gain the Infinity Stones. Avengers Infinity War happens with that starting, with the people when they flee from dying Asgard, only to be attacked next by Thanos. It opens with that. A lot of people have died. Some have escaped to Earth, and they set up new Asgard in somewhere in like in I forget where, but somewhere in Europe. I think where Norse culture used to be, and Viking culture used to be prevalent. So they set up home there, but a lot of them die as well. Loki gets killed as well. Thor is kind of dead. At least that's what Thanos hopes, because he sort of left him on a dying ship. And Hulk gets beaten to a pulp and by Thanos. So now Hulk doesn't want to come out anymore because he's very, very scared by Thanos. And so the rest of the movie just follows Mark Ruffalo being Mark Ruffalo. And yeah, that's pretty much the movie. It's a huge sort of race to get for Thanos to get stones, and for the rest of them to stop Thanos from getting the stones. And a lot of big battle scenes happen. Will not spoil it because it's a great movie. It's my favorite Avengers. Uh, Fantastic movie. And yeah, Thanos wins basically at the end of it. Does what he wanted to. Snaps his fingers. Wipes out half of everybody in the universe. And yeah, then disappears. And then Thor also has a very cool scene where he comes with a new hammer and stuff. Yeah. So Endgame, the conclusion of the Infinity Saga, and then a start to a rocky set of years following it. But I'm not judging. I love every other movie, and even though some of them are really bad, some of them are really good. They have their ups and downs, and I welcome all of them. It's fine, Uh, Clearly, Morbius was the best of them all. I'm joking, obviously, but anyway. So, the last movie in the Infinity Saga, Avengers Endgame, obviously is a huge showdown where they figure out a time traveling something gimmick, and they do that to stop Thanos in the past and do things to reverse his actions. um, Again, it's a movie that I think you should be fully enjoying, so I will not be breaking it down, but it's just a whole lot of like team ups and space kind of diverse stuff happening. In one corner of the space this is happening, in one corner this is happening. So it's like getting the stones before Thanos himself gets it, and before he himself considers that action, so they're doing it. But that previous Thanos, the one in the past, kind of realizes it, and then he is himself trying to defeat them and use time travel to do it. Oh, and by the way, the Thanos from Avengers Infinity War gets killed at the very start of Avengers Endgame, like in 5 seconds, like instantly, because kind of doesn't really have to put up a fight either, and he can't because literally he's kind of overpowered. There's like Stormbreaker and Thor, and literally like Captain Marvel in the room when he gets cornered. Really didn't have any way to get out. Oh, and also Thor ends up fat and depressed, so that's very funny and sad. But it's funny in the movie. Like I'm not like I have myself been in that life, so I relate Thor, But Thor was in another corner of that world, having lost everybody and his home. He was pretty far gone, and very sad and stuff. So yeah. Also, I promise I'm not trying to be insensitive to anything. I'm just trying to be a little bit dumb and condense the plot and be rambly about it. But anyway, a good wrap up to the Infinity Saga. Something that took literally 2018, so 11 years to happen, from Iron Man 1 to Endgame. Um, Wonderful movie. Iron Man makes the sacrifice play, dies, saves everybody, brings back everybody. Some other stuff happens after that, that I'm not going to get into. But yeah, it's pretty good. And since this video has gone on for too long, I don't think I'm going to be talking about the X-Men entirely, but I will read the comment because the comment that Possessive Opossum left. So I had asked in my polls whether people want to see me do a Rambles video. So I said, hell yeah, no, I like DC more, and a third option, which is comment down below what you want me to do. So Possessive Opossum said they love X-Men, which coincidentally I do too. I love X-Men. It's one of my favorite universes. I think I would say an even more favorite universe than the MCU, only because I have a personal liking to it. Like I kind of love Wolverine. I love Charles Xavier and Magneto and all of these guys. And I just thought it was like it's sort of a bittersweet thing. Like it's a very interesting universe and a whole lot of what would you call it? It's a whole other world, right? Like it's not. It did the MCU sort of multiverse thing before it was a thing. You know what I mean? Like in a way, it was a bigger world and a more complex and diverse world. And it is a whole lot more diverse, I would say. I'm not talking about it in terms of just like uh, people and representation. I'm just talking about like the issues that they tackle. It's not necessarily like I would say it's more serious, and I agree as well with anybody else that would say it, and that's what a Possessive Possum has said. So I will read that now for you. So I'm more into the original uh, and Wolverine trilogy and comics, of course. The conflict between Magneto and Professor X changed me fundamentally as a person. I think I like X-Men more than MCU or the DCEU because they're more about fighting for civil rights and the question of identity and less about flashy superpowers. I mean, sometimes Avengers do get political, but Civil War was much better in the comics than it was on screen. I agree. Or maybe mutants as a minority allegory just suits my taste better. Magneto is one of my favorite characters of all time. Xavier is well written too, but he is even more tragic. The tragedy of X-Men to me is that if you, as a member of a minority, try to make yourself more palatable to the current society's taste, your battle has already been lost. Because someone who has to pretend to be good and obedient will never be treated as an equal. I agree with that. And that is actually so sad that that's what's happening in the X-Men movies. So a lot of the X-Men movies is about either not wanting to be an X-Man or society rejecting the X-Men because they think they're freaks because they're mutants, right? So it's like it's always a thing about humans versus X-Men, and the humans start treating the mutants as some freak of nature's and start seeing themselves as better than these guys. They think they're less human, and yes, they are not human, but they are their own thing, and they always get treated differently, and um, and the humans start treating them extremely with extreme prejudice and completely are against who they are, and they always just want to, they're completely like, let's turn them back into humans or kill them. That's the only two solutions they have. And then there's a lot of X-Men and mutants who reject their powers, as in they don't want these things. They thought they were human, but they ended up being born with these things, and they don't want this. Like, and you can't blame them because it does make them fit out in a world that wants them to fit in. And so when they try to be a part of humans and give up their powers and side with humanity and no longer wish to be a mutant, mutants see that as an act of cowardice and reject those people from their own communities, seeing them as weak or seeing them as betrayers of the X-Men, and that's really sad because imagine being given powers that are great or perhaps very harmful, but you didn't ask for it, you didn't want it, and you want to just be a regular person. There's nothing wrong with that, because some people want to be regular and some people want to be extraordinary, and neither is greater than the other, and both are equally valid things to be, and I just feel like when you sort of look at it as a whole, um, what it is that X-Men comes down to, it's a whole lot of that. It's a whole lot of that dichotomy of being who you are, but also that kind of narrative of not wanting to be who you are, because some sort of accept who they are in the X-Men, and some mutants don't want to be mutant. They just want to have normal lives, because literally some mutants and their abilities cost them a regular life. I think I forget her name, but there's a mutant who has a power which kind of ends up, I think, killing another person if she just touches them without wearing gloves. And imagine having a power like that, right? Like she cannot engage in like romantic and physical affections. Hugging can only be done with like clothes on, as in like, I'm not saying like, oh my god, my intention is not to say that she should be hugging people without clothes. It's more like she can't have her hands free, is what I mean. Like everything, all her skin has to be covered up. Like she can't touch people without gloves. She cannot kiss someone without ending up putting their lives in danger. So all of that thing, and just being, even just friends with people, just puts people at risk for her. And so it's just sort of a sad life, and you can't blame her for not wanting to be a mutant anymore. So in one of the movies, she does proceed with going ahead with some treatment that reverses it and makes her human. But she gets she faces a lot of prejudice for that from her um, sort of community, the mutants. But that's just really sad, right? Like there's nothing wrong with wanting to be like her and give up her powers, but there's nothing wrong either with being like another mutant who embraces their power. But it's a whole lot of that. It's a whole lot of that dichotomy of, it's not as simple as superheroes and supervillains. It's a whole lot of grays, and that's what I also like. And I completely agree with what they're talking about, like in terms of like it being a serious narrative. And yeah, it's really good. I'm not saying that Marvel doesn't have serious narrative. It does. It surely does. When you look at Black Panther, that's a good example of a serious narrative done very well. But I think as an overall, the X-Men have a lot more of that kind of political conversations, a lot of other serious conversations, a lot of those, conversations about individuality, community, and it's pretty good. Society, and yeah, and yes, of course, we cannot forget Magneto and Xavier's relationship is such a cool premise for all of the X-Men movies, because one believes in mutant superiority and one believes in blending mutants and humans alike into a normal society, right? Like letting everyone just be themselves. And you know he's working on sort of integrating the mutants into normal society, and the reverse as well. He just wants everyone to just live the same. But Magneto's thing is that he welcomes the mutants' superiority in terms of the genetic sort of potential that they've been given, you know, and he thinks that they are the next stage of humanity. Humanity's done, mutants are next. So he's like, let's just kill the humans because they're not needed anymore. We are the new norm. We are the new Homo sapiens. Homo neanderthals died out. Homo sapiens took over. Mutants have come now, so Homo sapiens should naturally die. But Xavier realizes better, because each life is a life at the end of the day. It's valuable. It's a life, right? Now, that's not to say that bad people aren't bad, but that's not like dealing death so casually is not up to one person, and it shouldn't be. But that's what Magneto wants to do. He wants to wipe out billions of people just because they're human. But not all humans want to wipe out mutants, but he thinks they all should die because they all kind of want them dead, which is not entirely true. Not all humans hate X-Men. Some are very welcoming. But of course, it's a very difficult thing to kind of, it's very difficult to point your fingers and be like Magneto's bad or like humans are bad. It's a whole lot of both. So if that's something you like, I think you should watch the X-Men, give it a shot. And yeah, it's a really cool plot point and premise, and I think you would enjoy it. And so thank you, Possessive Opossum, for leaving your wonderful comment and allowing me to indulge in a sort of rambly sort of reply to it. I really like it. And I hope if you like the X-Men or the MCU or the DCU, feel free to comment down below and tell me what you like. And I want to just get this out of the way really quickly. I mean no disrespect to any of the things, any of these movies, in the way that I've described them. I was just sort of trying to be sort of compile and push out a video, and not talk too much about each movie. Even though I did talk about a lot about some specific movies, my intention was mostly just to sort of do a Rambles video and just sort of have it play out in the background for people to watch. So do forgive me if I have in any way caused offense to some people through anything that I said. My intention was not that, and I hope I've been truly neutral as much as I could, like in the places that were required, and where I've given my opinion, I hope it's not something that offends you, but if it does, I really do apologize. um, but with that said, this is meant for entirely an entertainment purposes. It's not meant to reflect everything that I believe in, you know. uh, but yes, it's not meant to be something take to be taken too personally. It's just meant to be a video for entertainment. So with that said, I'm going to now talk about Deadpool and Wolverine, which is Deadpool 3, because I just wanted to get it out of the way that I am not trying to offend people when I give my reviews, you know. So I don't like Deadpool and Wolverine. Let's just get that out of the way. I did not like it. I loved it as a entertainment comedy movie. That's it. I thought it was too vulgar, even though the other two movies literally have a lot of the same language. I just felt like Deadpool 3 was just a lot of senseless violence. And I didn't really know why. Like, I liked NSYNC's Bye 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 playing in the very beginning and that funny sort of violent montage at the start. But that's the whole movie actually. It's just a whole lot of senseless violence and a lot of like nostalgia sort of clickbait, you know, with the entire Fox universe X-Men showing up. I didn't dislike it, but it's just sort of like the entire multiverse thing being overdone is just really a sour taste and bad taste in my mouth. And I expected a lot more from this movie. I thought it was gonna have some sort of plot that went somewhere, and it just felt like, again, just using the multiverse concept to bring in characters as opposed to doing original things. And I'm not saying they didn't do original things. I just thought that they were just sort of throwing terms around like TVA, time travel, Wolverine, Gambit, this, that. And in some ways that worked really well because we got to see characters like Gambit come on screen, and Elektra, Blade, Daphne as X-23. I forget her name, but the actor's name is Daphne, I think, something like that. And so it's a lot of cool stuff, right? You know, there are some cool moments, but it's just cool moments as opposed to a good movie, you know. And I don't know why I feel like everyone's just sort of taking the movie as an opportunity to just be like, no, yeah, this has saved MCU. That's strange because I personally did not think the MCU was dying. Yes, it is. Yes, it is struggling, but I personally liked a lot of the movies that a lot of people disliked, and I would not want to be treated as less of a fan just because I liked those movies. They appeal to my taste. Some other movies don't appeal to other people's taste. Now, I'm not saying that they are wrong and I'm right. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that it's sort of wrong to use one movie as a way to put down other movies. When that's just because I feel like that's what's happened of the MCU. That's what's become of it. Everyone's just sort of taking an opportunity to be like, that sucks because this is better, or this is better because that sucks. Case in point, Thor 4 and Ant-Man 3. Everyone thinks those two movies were bad. I personally thought Thor 4 was fine. Like, it was okay. Ant-Man 3 was, yes, had a lot of problems in it, but I was okay with it, you know. I was kind of fine with it. Like, you know, like, yeah, it's kind of strange that Kang got defeated by a bunch of ants, but were those ants sort of given enough time to develop and get past sort of at Kang's level of advancements? Yeah, like, in a way, they ended up gaining. They were already intelligent ants that were given sort of even more time in the quantum realm to develop and become smarter. And Kang hasn't gone up against ants, so it makes sense that he would lose to ants, wouldn't it? He gets stronger when he goes up against other foes. He adapts and changes. But how can you adapt when already the foe that you're facing is twice more advanced than you, right? And I know that is sort of a disservice to the Kang from the comics, who is extremely overpowered. But then again, Kang isn't the only powerful being. Doom is a powerful being. And so if something like that were to happen to Doom, I understand criticizing it overly, right? Because Doctor Doom is not small level power. No, he's Omega level, he is multiverse level, he is every other level. Like, he is leagues above everybody. You know, he is like a multiverse shattering being, you know, potential wise, you know. So I get it. So is Kang. Not saying he isn't, but it's just sort of like everyone is so hell-bent on just using the Deadpool movie that just came out to sort of reinforce the narrative that MCU thoroughly is just bad now. And I don't really know how I feel about that. Like I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that sort of logic and opinion, but I'm not really going to just say yes just because everyone else is saying yes. I didn't like Deadpool 3. I kind of felt like it was a genuine loss for my time, because I expected a lot from that movie, and for what it promised and what it looked like it was going to be, it ended up being a bit of clickbait for me. Just my opinion. It was good, but I don't think it's better than Deadpool 1 and 2, which felt fresh, which felt like the humor was original still. Whereas in Deadpool 3, that whole self-aware humor, it just felt very played out and very like, okay, I've seen it happen twice now, Deadpool. What more can you give me? You know, like Deadpool is supposed to be like that, but I don't know, just going to the theater and just seeing Wolverine and Deadpool just cut each other every 5 seconds, like slice and dice and be violent and just keep cursing every 5 seconds. I was just like, okay, is this all I'm here to watch? Is this all that's gonna be happening for the rest of the whole movie? Because it felt like that. Like it was just violence after violence after violence after violence after vulgarity after vulgarity. And it's not like I'm against the use of vulgar words. Like, I'm not gonna say it in my videos, but like the F word and whatever. I'm not against that. I use it in real life. Like I use it in normal sentences. Like sometimes, but kind of using that throughout the movie just sort of defeats the purpose of having language and a script to use. If you're gonna keep using vulgar words to sort of talk the whole time, it just sort of feels kind of boring, and a little annoying. And that's just me. That's just not my kind of humor. That's just me. Some other people do like profanity being used in a humorous setting, and they like that. And I can understand this movie has a lot more appeal to those that kind of grew up with the Fox universe. I did too. I grew up with the Fantastic Four. Even before I grew up with any of the MCU stuff, I grew up with Fantastic Four, uh, Johnny Storm and the guys, where Captain America, Chris Evans first did a superhero role. That's what I grew up with. So it's not like I'm against all of what happened. But at the end of the day, it still felt like a cheap, like, here's multiverse clickbait. Watch. This is what we're doing. There's 20,000 cameos. I guess it was fine. Like, also excuse the sort of sounds in the background. Yeah, it was good as a time pass movie, but I wouldn't watch it again. Like, unless like it had been a year or something, then I just wanted to like watch it for the gags, for the fun of it all. So that's my honest 2 cents about it. Only because I feel like a lot of people have just been saying it's good, and I haven't really seen a genuine take on it. So I wanted to offer my own. But that's not to say I didn't think the action was good or that the humor was good. There is some good humor to it, but it was still some places where it was very questionable and just not for me. Like the overtly PG-18 nature of the movie was not my cup of tea. Like, even though Deadpool 1 had like a 5-minute sex scene montage, it was still a good movie because it was the first time a superhero movie was going out of bounds and doing something whack, and it played out well. Like, the entire movie didn't feel like it was just sort of senseless. It had something that established a narrative, and then the narrative was sort of backed up by a good plot. This movie did not feel like that for me, but that's just my 2 cents on it. Thank you for watching. I have gone on for a long time. Um, I do promise that I'm not some dumbass who has no concrete opinions on things, and I promise that I am more descriptive in real life than the way I have described the sort of 21, is it 21? Yep, 21 movies in the Infinity Saga. But this is just me making a video after a long time, and trying to just take things casual, and have some fun. But I hope you do enjoy. I hope you enjoyed me rambling and just mouthing my mouth off. I mean, okay, I wasn't really mouthing off. I was just sort of like blah 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 the whole time. But I do hope you enjoyed, and it served the purpose that it was, which was just a Rambles video dedicated to the Infinity Saga. Again, all of these opinions that I've offered up and all of the critiques and reviews that I've offered up are entirely subjective and are my opinions, and everything in this video is meant for entertainment purpose only. I am not trying to attack anyone else's thinking or beliefs or what you like or dislike. It's yours. It's completely valid for you to think what you think in terms of what these movies are, how you like them, how you dislike them, whatever it is, that's yours. And if you dislike it, you dislike it. If you love it, you love it. Nothing to do with me, alright? I just want to get that out of the way because this is my very first video where I'm being a little bit more honest and a little bit more um, expressive of my tastes and distastes and likes and dislikes and whatever. So I don't want to be attacked for it because I wouldn't attack anyone else for having those. So this is a respectful place, a respectful space. I would appreciate all my viewers and watchers and those who leave comments to respect that. And if you can't, I will be deleting those comments and taking the action necessary to keep those hateful comments away. But you're more than welcome to hate on what you like. Just don't get hateful in my comments and disrespectful. But you're willing to share your opinions as long as they don't disrespect anybody else. And obviously the general way, a good comment that is critical but is respectful to everybody. Just don't get attacky of each other. All right. Okay. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to me ramble, and I hope you enjoyed the layered sounds that is in this video. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace, everybody. Bye bye. Bye bye. Rudy out. This, I think, will be the last of its kind rambles video that goes on this long, because I don't think it's good for my voice to be speaking at a length of this length. But I did enjoy it, and I hope you enjoyed too. So see you later, alligators. Bye bye, everybody. Have a good night's sleep, and I hope you enjoyed this new phone of mine. I don't think I'm going to be making more videos on it, but if you like it, let me know. Bye for now. Bye 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 bye. Good night. Sleep well, my friends. Take care. And ASMR Rudy is